chopped off heads, fake heads and blood.
To me, riffs are fucking timeless.
You've got generations of people going to see them.
It's our best album so far.
The fans have been asking for it. They've been asking for it for years.
I would listen to it over and over and over again today.
It's that music we play, man. You're either going to like it or not.
There are satanic bands. Some of them really aren't.
We're playing the craziest drunken debauchery show we played probably ever.
He is not in condition to be doing a podcast.
You're listening to the Great Metal Debate Podcast.
Hey metal fans, it's the Great Metal Debate Podcast, episode 79. I'm your host, Robert, aka Gomthog Metallicus, joined again for this episode by Xander. Now, today you and I will be bringing our listeners our yearly episode looking back at the best metal albums of the past year. But before we get into the podcast, a reminder to check out all our content on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube, and keep up with the metal debate by liking and following us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Just use the keyword metal debate to find us. Before we get to the countdown, both Xander and I have some honorable mentions that didn't make our lists proper, but are still worthy to remark. Xander, we'll start with you. You have the floor.
Here are my honorable mentions. Fragments of Unbecoming, Dawnbringer, Chapter 7, The Amber Emperor. Rise as Legends, My Prison, My Grave. Morkalok, Sanguinaria. Aid, Supplicium. Fleshbore, Painted Paradise. Mursa, Horrifier. Gutted Souls, Portals to Chaosium. Grimness, The Path of the Flame. Kepra, Anatomy of Sin. Hooded Menace, Lachrymose, Monuments of Obscuration. Indren, Duskborn. Revacior, Reaper's Gale. After Earth, Dark Night of the Soul. The Son of Suns, Entanglement. Jallarhorn's Wrath, The Silver Key.
That's a great list, man, including a number I hadn't heard before. I have a few as well. We'll start with Blackthorn, Hexacratus. Judicator, Concord. Burning Witches, Inquisition. Tower, Let There Be Dark. Archaic, Euetus. Piano Black, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Obscura, A Sonication. Glacia, Fear. Averst, Erasure of Color. Beast, Colossal. Arch Enemy, Blood Dynasty. Dauriata, Magveta. Frenlith, Ashen Womb. Woad, Uncrossing the Keys. And Celestial Wizard, Regenesis. With that, we'll jump right into it. Xander, let's hear your top metal albums.
Fair warning, you're going to hear me use the word debut a lot during this list. There are so many brand new up-and-coming metal bands who have chosen 2025 as the year to release their first records. Who knows, maybe in 30 years, future metalheads will look back on 2025 as the new 1995. That's just my prediction, of course.
20.
This Turkish melodic death metal band calls themselves Ondalein, and this is their debut called The Exile of Noldor. I'm about to say something that will make most of you nerds gasp. I have never been a Lord of the Rings fan. Sorry. I just can't get into hobbits, dwarves, elves, or orcs. Anyway, I can appreciate the music with Tolkien-themed lyrics. As long as the music and the vocals are good, you can make a great metal song about Mickey Mouse if you want. I don't care. Ondalein has won me over with their musicianship, and if you haven't heard of this obscure band, now might be the time to check them out.
19.
If you are like me and you are disappointed with the newest Xander album because of how their new singer sounds, then you might be searching for a spiritual successor. Enter another Turkish band that also starts with the letter O, Orfarian, with their stellar debut titled A Faraway World. Now, I'll warn new listeners that the production quality is a little rough in places. A lot of the recordings seem to be slightly washed out in the mix, but do not let that steer you away from this band. The music is still clear enough to thoroughly enjoy. In fact, it sort of reminds me a little bit of the first 3 albums by Visions of Atlantis before they blew up in popularity.
18.
When I first heard that there was a band called Abeyance, I immediately thought of the song Abeyance by Bellicor. But no, Abeyance is a melodic death metal band hailing all the way from Italy, and this is their debut full-length album titled Introspective Crusades. This is also the band's first release in 15 years, because their first and only EP was released in 2010. Given the band's name, I half expected them to sound similar to Australia's Bellicor, but instead, they have a similar sound to the German band Nyctophobia. Abeyance has everything you could ever want from a melodic death metal band, with groovy, headbanging moments and calm riffs. The vocals aren't too bad, and overall, they have grabbed my attention as a melodic death metal enthusiast.
17.
Have you ever heard of a metal band with 2 bass players? No? Well, now you have. This international progressive metal band, with members from both the Netherlands and the United States, call themselves Quadvium. Vocals are normally a huge thing for me, so I don't usually get into instrumental bands, but I'll make an exception for these guys, because holy shit. One bass player rocks a 5-string fretless, and the other bassist rocks a 7-string fretless. If you enjoy bass playing in technical death metal bands like Surreption, Deeds of Flesh, Obscura, and Beyond Creation, you would love this band. I feel like this would make the perfect opportunity to give a shout out to a band that I missed a few years ago. There's a one-man instrumental band from Japan called Neverness, who also makes the bass guitar the main star of the show. Quadvium understands that 2 bass guitars are better than 1, and you know what? This band makes me want to pick up a bass guitar again. Maybe I will with my tax return or if I get another stimulus check.
16.
According to Metal Archives, this Finnish death metal band, Messiah Paratroops, has been active since 1989, but this Legions of Tomorrow album is their debut. What is it with all these bands taking 30 plus years to release albums? First it was Mesro, then it was Atrophy, now this? Just to clarify, from 1989 to 1996, they were known as Aeon, not to be confused with the Swedish band we all know and love. Then this band split up and reformed in 2015 under this new name, which means they actually only took a decade to make this first record. For all of my end of the year lists, I tend to have at least one thrash metal album, but even though this band isn't technically death thrash, there are definitely thrash moments. The band title track has the thrashiest riff in the entire album, but there's other thrashy moments too, like in the following track, Morbid Prayer. Legions of Tomorrow is an album that will have you headbanging from start to finish, but there's one problem. The only place you can listen to this band is YouTube. Why it's not available on Amazon Music, I have no idea. I'm not sure if it's on Spotify or not, but feel free to check for me. I know the Florida black metal band Lust Travi has their album on Spotify, but not Amazon, so who knows. Anyway, go check these guys out.
15.
Here we have us a Texas-based melodic black metal band with a Swedish name and a Swedish sound. This is Kriegsgrav, with their 8th studio album released through Willow Trip Records titled Stormcaller. This one was a last-minute addition on my list because it impressed me more than my original number 15 spot that I have since taken off my list completely. Not because the other album wasn't good, there was just nothing unique about it. That's of course what I look for when putting these end-of-the-year rosters together. I think about what stands out from the rest of the generic releases we get every single day. Metal as a whole can be redundant regardless of the genre. That's why things like Kriegsgrav make it here. Sometimes all it takes is a little bit of care instead of just slapping something together. The guitar riffs are well thought out, and some parts even have some in-flame sounding hooks. The raspy vocal delivery meshes well with the tone, and the bass is audible, unlike most black metal bands.
14.
I can't say that I've been following this Ukrainian black metal band since their genesis, but I started liking them after being impressed by their 2018 album, The Blind Leading the Blind. I didn't even hear of it until Nazgul from Obsidian Shrine told me about them in early 2020. Of course, their previous album, Where Fear and Weapons Meet, back in 2021, was on a lot of people's end of the year list. But their newest effort, Veribus Unitus, continues their unrelenting barrage of immense power. 1914 is a blistering black metal band who are best known for their World War I themed lyrics. Hey, wait a minute. Didn't I praise another black metal band last year who also had World War I themed lyrics? Ah, yes. The German band called Kanonentheibe. Both bands should tour the US together. That would be fucking amazing. But back to 1914. I will say that the song titles on this one can get a little confusing due to all of them starting with different years during the war, but just know it's a blast from front to back.
13.
Next up, from Mexico, we have a superb death doom metal band called Silent Tombs with their debut, Morning Hymns from Beyond. With most death doom or funeral doom metal bands, it's easier to draw comparisons to other bands within the genre. As for Silent Tombs, they're every bit as distinct in their sound as the likes of Ahab. If this band is playing, I know it's them, and I don't have to question to myself asking things like, is this Shape of Despair? No. Silent Tombs is Silent Tombs, and if for some reason you haven't paused this podcast episode to go give them a listen, then do it when you're finished listening to us talk about our favorites of 2025. Morning Hymns deserves a spot on this list as well as yours, so go show your support.
12.
Shout out to my friend across the pond, Draco Athergoth, for reminding me to give this a listen. I had it written down on my list of albums to listen to, but it almost flew under my radar until he mentioned it and gave it a solid review. So thanks for telling me to go give it a listen. Just like with Silent Tombs, we have us another amazing funeral doom metal act, this time from New Jersey. This is Evoken's 7th full-length record, titled Mendacium, and it's every bit as bleak and depressing as their previous works. They never stray from the path of dreadfulness, and nor should any band of this caliber. Evoken is another great band to tune into when the gray, cloudy weather affects your mood and makes you feel sad. This is the type of metal that reminds you that you're human and have emotions. They can help amplify a good listening experience. Want to hear something impactful? Look no further than this.
11.
I first saw this album cover a little over a year ago and heard the single from it. I remember loving it, but after so much time I had forgotten about it. That is, until I saw that the same album cover was being used again for the full-length record. This is the atmospheric black metal New Zealanders, Old Throne, with their third studio album, Megalith. Just like another album I'm going to mention later, they too have a tribal sound infused in their genre. While the standard buzzsaw riff is a staple in the main guitar lead, there are still plenty of melodies to be enjoyed here. This album overall has great structure in terms of songwriting, as everything seems to be properly placed in the tracks. The added-in old instrumentation, chants, singing, and whistles help every song stand out in a unique way. Temple of the Sky is among one of my most favorite songs, not just on this album, but if I had a separate list of top 20 songs of 2025, it would certainly make an appearance. Its acoustic moments are brief, but the old wooden flute truly makes the song pop. Or, at least I think that's a flute I hear. You know what? You listen to it and you tell me if I'm crazy. Here's the song, Temple of the Sky. Have you ever just seen an album cover and then became intrigued enough to check it out based on the artwork alone? That's how I felt about this Swiss melodic death metal band Atlas Ashes with their debut, New World. As I said in the review for this one, it took a few listens before it really started to grow on me. At first I didn't care much for Chloe's yelling voice. It was definitely an acquired taste. The music is obviously great though, despite it having more of a metalcore style as opposed to the more traditional sound. I can't recommend it to everyone, but if you think you might like it, give it a chance.
9.
At the end of last year's Album of the Year podcast, I mentioned that I was highly anticipating this new album, Cult of Xander, by French black and death metal band Scaphos. Turns out that it was absolutely worth the wait. Funny story, my phone ran out of service the day before this album came out, and I only had like $5 on me. So I used it to buy something cheap from Starbucks, that way I could use their Wi-Fi and listen to this album. I ended up getting paid later that day, so I just continued listening to it on my refilled data. But this album was fantastic. While some might say that lyrical themes based around the cosmic horror of H.P. Lovecraft are somewhat redundant, Scaphos has done it in a way that is enjoyable.
8.
Back in 2022, when Black Braid first came on the scene, I basically worshipped Skagasawa's debut. The following year, I enjoyed the sequel record, with my only critique being that the songs were too long. Moss-covered Bones on the Altar of the Moon did not need to be 14 minutes long in my opinion. But this third entry in his discography just might be his best work yet. The Dying Breath of a Sacred Stag, War Drums at Dawn on the Day of My Death, and God of Black Blood are all certified bangers. Plus the serene interlude tracks like The Earth is Weeping and Traversing the Forest of Eternal Dusk really help capture the Native American spirit and put the listener into the right headspace. Sure, this one-man band might be extremely popular now, and even controversial in some aspects, but there is absolutely no denying that this is something truly special. I'm grateful that I got to see Black Braid live on his first 2 tours, but I'm saddened that I couldn't go see them a third time with Dultrit and Lamp of Mimir a few months back. Oh well, Skagasawa has come a long way since the days of The River of Time Flows Through Me in Sakandaga. I hope that he goes on tour again in 2026, because a live performance from him and his live band is always a spectacle.
7.
Those of you who don't know, Aphanimer's previous album, A Dream of Wilderness, was my number 1 favorite album of 2021. I could say the same thing for Utopia, but I want to give my number 1 to a lesser known band this year. I just wouldn't see it as fair, seeing as how I already gave them the spotlight 4 years ago, and because Aphanimer is the only band on this list that is part of Napalm Records, which is a major record label. Remember last year how my top 20 albums had like 5 German bands? Well, this year, my list is dominated by French bands, so look forward to seeing 2 more after this. But while we're on the subject, Aphanimer usually speaks both French and English, but this album is entirely in French. With that being said, I'm not going to even try reading their song titles because I don't want to butcher their lovely language. But just know that this album is divine and everyone should hear it. If for some reason you haven't heard it, what are you even doing with your life? Get on it.
6.
Just like Aphanimer, every song on this album is also in French, so I won't go out of my way to attempt pronouncing anything more than the band's name, which is Les Bâtards du Roi, with their new album Les Chemins de l'Exil. To me, this is melodic black metal done correctly. The vocals are venomously raspy and menacing. The typical buzzsaw style of black metal riffs have switched their tuning. The rapid tremolo picking is still there, but with a lot less distortion, which makes this a lot more of a pleasant listening experience. It has an element of depression, but the upbeat blast beats will keep a smile on your face as you venture through the darkness. The entire album front to back is something I would highly recommend to any black metal listener.
5.
Coming to us from Portugal, we have Godark's sophomore release titled Omniscience. Thanks once again to Metal Collision for bringing this stellar release to my attention. This is undoubtedly one of the best melodic death metal albums I have heard all year. Those guitar riffs are relaxing, and the operatic singing in the background towards the end of This Is the End brings sheer bliss to my ears. I love the shredding in the song Into the Hollow. Frozen in Time is a masterpiece of a song, and so is Nightmare Walk.
4.
Sometimes it's difficult for me to place albums after giving them a final re-listen for the year. I actually moved this one up 2 spaces once I reminded myself just how amazing the entire country of Finland is when it comes to producing some of the very best melodic death metal. Enter Shadecrown with their 4th album, Zero. This was my first introduction to the band, but thanks to this mind-blowing release, I will definitely check out the 3 previous albums. I love how gorgeous the music is with the harsh vocal style over the melodies. It's the perfect mixture of calm and heavy sounds clashing with one another. Of course, I could throw my extensive vocabulary at this band to applaud it, but it's better if you just listen to this album for yourself. Me verbally describing it won't do it justice.
3.
The truth is that I simply do not have the time to bathe this band in the amount of compliments I want to give it, but I will glorify this band as much as I can within the short time frame. Honestly, I should have reviewed this when it was first released back in September, so I could do a full deep dive on this one. Some of you are probably scratching your heads right now thinking, Xander, this list has been nothing but melodic death metal or black metal with some funeral doom. Why is a metalcore album high up in your single digits? It's because this Orlando, Florida-based metalcore, deathcore, gent, emo rock band has blown me away. If I'm being real with y'all, I was never a fan of the emo era. Back then, I was more of the MySpace era deathcore guy. But now that I'm in my mid-30s, I'm beginning to feel nostalgic for that time period, where the highest tech devices that we had were the Motorola Razr and the iPod. I first became aware of this band after scrolling through YouTube shorts, and I saw live footage of Not Enough Space playing the breakdown for the song Don't Be Scared. The camera was focused on Liv Mitchell going absolutely apeshit on stage. I instantly became intrigued and looked up the full song. I was beyond amazed, obviously, but then I saw dozens of reaction videos for the song Primitive, and the numerous people began calling the band Moancore just because of what Liv does for the song's breakdown. Of course, a stunt like that is very polarizing and gains a multitude of reactions. Some people think it's cringy, some people think it's sexy, some people think it's funny. I, on the other hand, just thought it was cool. As for the other songs on this incredible album, which is titled Weaponize Your Rage, every single song is a catchy earworm, and I have had many of the choruses stuck in my head over the last 3 months. Especially because of Lizzie's late 2000s emo-sounding singing that has a Paramore kind of vibe. Every word she sings has audible breath behind it that was left in the recording for extra dramatic effect, and it totally works. There's a lot of emotion behind her voice, and this duet plays off each other nicely. The breakdowns bring ferocity, and the genty-sounding guitar riff will induce involuntary headbanging or even cause moshers to start two-stepping. I'd have to say that my 3 favorites on this album are the songs New Age Cannibal, Don't Let Go, and Solace in Silence, which has a soaring yet short-lived guitar solo brought to us by Tristan. But the heaviest song on this album is definitely The Devil Left Me on Read. Don't scoff at this band just because of its diverse genre blending. You just have to hear them for yourself. I really hope to see them live for the first time in 2026. Not Enough Space. If you are listening to this, I hope y'all come to Nashville.
2.
Locally, in my area of Nashville, Tennessee, we have a band called Elder Call with their glorious debut, Closure. Now, I do not know these guys personally like I do most of the other metal bands in the Nashville scene, but I hope to meet these guys very soon and eventually see them live. I should probably contact them and ask them if they have any upcoming gigs. Their style of melodic death metal is everything I could ever ask for in the genre. Everything from the precise drumming to the groovy guitar melodies, and of course, the piano. You must have piano in any form of melodic style of metal.
1.
Hailing all the way from Romania, we have the melodic funeral doom metal band Clouds with their newest album, Desperens. Praise be upon it because everything from the very first key pressed all the way to the very last breath blown through the flutes, this album is 100% flawless. Fun fact, out of the 1,700 releases I have heard this year, this album was only number 38, and it basically skipped the line for the entire year, seeing as how it was released in early January. Once again, shout out to my friend Matthew Beans for showing me this band because none of the other metal release sources mentioned this one. But everything about this record is immaculate. The slow, doomy riffs complement the dragging, cavernous bellows. I talked a little more in depth about this album in my review that you can go back and listen to. Or, You can just see for yourself just how hauntingly beautiful it is. Here, enjoy the opening track, Disguise.
so many outstanding albums, and I'll admit, Xander, that Clouds album could be the best album of the year. I have my own list, though, and we'll get right into it.
20.
Starting my list at 20, we have Brazilian death metalers Escarnium and their fourth full-length album, Inexorable Entropy, released back in May by one of the world's best-named metal labels, Everlasting Spew Records. Mixing an old-school European death metal sound alongside a more 2010s-era U.S. death metal spirit, Escarnium stands apart from many of their South American peers. There's plenty of dissonance and brutality on the surface, but I really love the subtle pacing throughout and the contrast of aggressive riffs with great melody. If you're a fan of Immolation, I think you'll find much to enjoy with Inexorable Entropy.
19.
Sura is a band that's always on my radar, but rarely in the crosshairs of my listening focus, with their self-described subgenre of Caledonian metal. However, with their latest offering, Amidst the Ruins from Season of Mist Records, they've finally made me bend the knee. And it's the incredible balance that has tipped the scales. On Amidst the Ruins, Andy Marshall has constructed the best mix yet of Sura's diverse palette of sounds, spinning an intricate web of huge atmospheres, black metal, and folk stylings. Critical to making this work, in my opinion, are the pipes and whistles that are well placed in the mix to contrast with the guitars. The use of female vocals are limited, but effective where they're utilized. Overall, by far, my favorite release from this prolific Scottish act.
18.
Next up, I have Latvian black and folk metal crew Skyforger with Takis. Skyforger hammers away throughout this one quite heavily with a thrashy influence, but there's also plenty of melodic and memorable riffs. Sadly, as a non-Latvian speaker, the lyrical impact is totally lost on me, but that doesn't keep me from singing along as best I can. Despite wanting to run through all these amazing tracks, I won't try to name any more, due to my likely mispronunciation of the titles, given my Latvian language skills are non-existent. Peter Svetkoskis does a solid job on the lead vocals, shouting with gusto, but at times it is the group choral chants that put things over the top. Overall, a super impressive album. I wish the most recent Arcona release had been this good.
17.
At 17 is Greek band Scent of Thorns with their debut album Deathless Heights. There's a wonderful raw energy to this one and a distinct, eclectic sound. The band does a great job mixing melodic black and death metal with folk melodies. Singer Barbara Ageladou mostly keeps her vocals in a rasping black shriek, but at times will pull out gorgeous cleans or soft-spoken word. The twin guitar attack drives the melody well, with the flute giving the sound that extra oomph it needs, especially on tracks like Death Foreseen and Wanderers. All the songs are just quite well written. They'll stick in your head after just a couple of listens, yet won't bore you after you've listened to them another 10 times. Beautiful music and great work from this new band.
16.
Dutch melodeath crew Nephilim was back in 2025 with their sophomore release, Circuition. For those familiar with their 2020 debut, Severance of Serenity, the new release retains all the power of the former and builds with fresh nuance and majesty. Songs like the title track deliver a broad melodic and emotional response, and the entire album is a clinic in melodic death metal. Nephilim infuse an incredible range of music theory into every track, melodic, guttural, and layered. Nephilim truly stands out in a genre that too often consists of cookie-cutter musicians.
15.
At 15, I have Brazilian thrash metalers Violator with Unholy Retribution. I'm super picky with my thrash metal, in part as a reaction to the hypersaturated history that's led many to treat bands like Slayer, Megadeth, Testament, and Anthrax as if they represented the center of the metal sound. But Violator really hits the mark with Unholy Retribution. The production is retro, but don't let that fool you. The riffs are violent and angry, the vocals good and unique, and the drums deliver aggressive blasts and fills that keep the sound saturated with thrash attitude. Two tracks to highlight are Destroy the Altar, which displays some pretty damn creative technique, and Chapel of the Sick, an incredibly fast song with exciting riffing capped by a sick refrain. Violator do not disappoint on this one, succeeding in their mission to keep thrash metal alive and blasting at full speed.
14.
Is it possible I have overemphasized folk metal on my list of top metal albums of 2025? Hell no. This was a great year for the metal subgenre, and so many bands are worthy of recognition, including Italy's Folkstone with their 8th, did I count that right? Yep, 8, full-length release, Natura Morta. Now, if you aren't partial to bagpipes, I will tell you two things. One, you're insane, because bagpipes are one of the most metal of instruments. And two, stay far away from the music of Natura Morta because it is lathered with bagpipes. The pipes are so well integrated into the music, along with guitars, harp, bombard, and hurdy-gurdy. With Natura Morta, Folkstone have really developed their formula, ironed out any creases evidenced in predecessor albums, and moved to establish themselves as a contender in the folk metal realm.
13.
With my number 13 pick, I have Melodeath supergroup The Halo Effect and their second release, March of the Unheard. If you enjoyed 2022's Days of the Lost, you'll really like this one. If you weren't a fan, there's unlikely to be anything here that moves you. Michael Stan, Peter Iwers, and the rest of the crew do just what they do, rinse and repeat. In this way, they are formulaic, but it's not a negative. They're just incredibly consistent stylistically while still exploring a range of structures within the contours Gothenburg-style melodic death metal allows. For me, it's heavenly. Tracks like What We Become and Our Channel to the Darkness are brutally effective in their execution. Definitely a bucket list band for me, and if I do get to see them live one day, I'm hoping there's plenty of songs off March of the Unheard on the set list.
12.
At 12 is one of my favorite bands on the planet, Swiss folk metal masters Helvete, with their latest album, Anew. You can check out my review of the album from earlier in the year on this channel. My thoughts on it have fluctuated, to be honest. I was initially sky high on Anew, then as it aged in my mind, found myself wrestling with a number of imperfections in the release. Now, with many months to reflect, I think it is a durable album, though not quite as strong as its predecessor, Atignatos. There's quite a variety of tracks on this album, but all of them are killer, and they fit well with the best in the back catalog. I give full credit to Kriegel Glansman that he has been willing to adapt and change the band's sound over the years, and not simply repeat the same successful formula. That this band has become a rotating cast of musicians without much consistency perhaps is the cost for that. Regardless, check out Anew whether you are a fan of the folk subgenre or simply a metal enthusiast generally.
11.
Polish death metalers Sempra released their second full-length album, Chaz Sagwadi, this year via Hellfire Records. While this album mostly tracks as traditional, occasionally old-school death metal, there's elements of melodeath and even a few proggy parts to be found. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of genuine speed and aggression on the album, but it is contrasted with a surprising amount of variation, ranging from the sinister chug and crawl of Plaga to the thuggish and groovy chorus of Chinicha Noshi. This album to me is a reminder bands can still write some very feral and guttural death metal while engaging in worthwhile stylistic fusion, often melding aggressive genres. Here's a track from this amazing album. This is Plaga by Sempra. For my number 10 album, I go to the most veteran band on my list, one with deep roots going back into the 1980s, who this year released their first album since 1993. I'm talking about Swiss thrash legends Coroner and their new album, Dissonance Theory. It's so interesting to listen to a band that 3 decades ago were innovators in the genre, but to their credit, their updated offering wisely lends an ear to their competition in the intervening years. And the update works. This album is a worthy listen whether you're a longtime fan or have never heard of this band before. There's a lot to consume with influences from thrash metal, obviously, industrial metal, as well as avant-garde and progressive elements. At times, Coroner takes it right to the edge with the technicality, such as on the epic build of Sacrificial Lamb, and similarly on The Law. Maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but if you're a metal fan, my hunch is you will find something to like within Dissonance Theory.
9.
I admit to having a very soft spot in my heart for Battle Beast. They're one of the bands I interviewed back in the early days of the podcast on their tour stop in Louisville, Kentucky, and Nora Luimo could not have been nicer. And I found all the guys actually to be quite genuine, and they gave a damn great performance then and since. This year, the band released Steelbound, their 7th full-length overall. You're either going to like it or hate it. I love it. This one has the band doing everything they do at the highest level. The perfect blend of blazing 80s soaked glam metal and AOR-friendly hook-oriented tracks. Nora's voice is excellent, effortlessly belting out catchy vocal lines, including both high notes and her signature rasp. The song structures are varied, and we get a healthy number of heavy moments paired with the standard symphonic cheese keys, economical guitar leads, and the Battle Beast mid-tempo anthemic opuses. Sadly, this record is the last with Luimo, with her departure for a solo career, but Steelbound represents arguably the best that this lineup has to offer.
8.
Melodic death metal has a number of top-tier releases in 2025, and among those was the return of Mors Principium Est with fresh music in the form of Darkness Invisible. These Finns have been going for over 20 years now, including well-known lineup changes, so they could be forgiven for resting on their laurels, but there isn't a dull moment to be had on this album. There's even a few notable innovations that will frustrate the naysayers. Album opener Of Death is a thrashy storm of notes with noodling lead guitar lines and harmonizing hooks, and the majestic Monuments is a supreme melodeath anthem. The track All Life is Evil includes female guest vocals that fit perfectly with the song structure, building in interesting parts that supplement the standout guitar work. With Darkness Invisible, Mors Principium Est solidify their place among the heavyweights of melodeath.
7.
If you aren't up to speed on the glorious Japanese metal scene, you are missing out because in recent years it has exploded. Bands like Galnerius, Brydeer, Illusion Force, and Hagane are producing some of the best new metal that's competitive with what you'll find in Europe or North America. But the cream of the crop from the land of the rising sun is certainly Unlucky Morpheus, who proved it again with their release Gate of Heaven, which came out late this year. Fuki's voice is high-pitched as ever, intermingling with the guitars and smart drum patternings to maintain that power anime feel. We see this particularly in the syncopation of Savior of God, a track which would have been at home on the latest Beast in Black album. But the band is really at its best on tracks like Sakura Cavalier, where they lean on violin hero Jill and her virtuoso melodic leads. While there's not a significant change here from previous albums, I never seem to get tired of what Unlucky Morpheus does, given how the band changes the pacing and continues to tactically experiment within their formula. Another glorious neoclassical power metal offering.
6.
Russian folk metal communion Kalevala returned in 2025 with Glazama Afili, the band's 7th full-length album. Glazama Afili continues in the general style of its predecessors, good consistency, but with some new innovations of style and emphasis. For those not familiar, Kalevala's folk stylings are more akin to the Finnish folk metal scene, with bands such as Korpiklaani and Ensiferum, than with their better-known compatriots in Russia like Arkona or Alkanost. All the songs are outstanding, showing the group have not lost their skill as a songwriting unit. Now, you're not going to be wowed by the technicality, but each song has those little flourishes that provide the album with character and that make listening to it all the more rewarding with repeated listens. There's just so much good here. It will suck you in and captivate you if you allow it. If you haven't heard anything by Kalevala yet, and you should, Glazami Ofili is as good as any album of theirs to start with.
5.
My 5th best metal album of 2025 is May the Bridges We Burn Light the Way from Finnish melodic death metal stalwarts Omnium Gatherum. Characterized by the same commanding strength and breathtaking capabilities we've gotten in their previous works, Bridges embodies the classic Omnium Gatherum sound, performed with uncompromising identity and distinguished execution. The opening cruiser, My Pain, is a charged melodeath banger, followed by the punchier riff-happy thrasher, The Last Hero. Other tracks like Walking Ghost Phase and Darkest City hew a little closer to the classic Gothenburg sound, supplemented with OG's patented assortment of chanting clean-sung passages and lighter instrumental touches. Marcus Van Hala is one of my favorite guitarists in metal, and this release shows why he's earned those roses with his Van Halen-esque shutting leads and overdubbed harmonizing passages as strong as ever. I got to see these guys on the U.S. tour this fall, supporting the album shortly after its release, where they played about half the tracks, and those songs stood up as well or better live than they do on record. It's an album that shows this veteran band's musicianship at its peak.
4.
Melancholy Saturates my next pick, which is the first full-length release from Gothic death doom troupe Opia, titled I Welcome Thee, Eternal Sleep. One of my biggest and most pleasant surprises of 2025, I hadn't heard of this group previously and truly couldn't believe the level at which these artists executed. The songwriting is so amazingly calculated, with a mixture of swarming dark riffs and depressive melodies that progress deep into Gothic abandon. I couldn't be more impressed with Teresa Roilova's vocals, the strength of her voice coming less from volume and more from the raw emotion she pours into each lyric. On Man Proposes, God Disposes, you really see what I mean. She's just beautifully hypnotic with her cleans, and there's a bitter tinge to her growls. The Fade is one of my faves on the record, employing the perfect dosage and timing of doom. And the lyrics similarly are amazing, an incredible work coming entirely unforeseen. I really hope this is the first of many albums from Opia, imagining they have only begun to scratch the surface of their creative depths and musical acumen. Draconian, take notice. This is the future of the genre.
3.
Coming in at 3 is In the Vanishing Echoes of Goodbye from long-standing Italian power metal warriors Labyrinth. Perhaps this one doesn't quite rise to the heights of Return to Heaven Denied, but it's right up there at shoulder level with the best albums the band has in its discography. There's plenty of power metal rockers, but also a generous mixing of outside influences into a power prog format. Even within faster songs like Accept the Changes and At the Rainbow's End, Labyrinth make room for softer, intimate moments before returning to power metal bombast. As always, the harmonizing of the guitar and keys is a feature to their sound, with frontman Roberto Tirani's bursting countertenor still stellar after all these years. Every song has something worthwhile to offer, and you really need to listen to this album a number of times before fully appreciating all the outstanding music that it contains. A must-have for prog metal fans.
2.
The penultimate album on my list is the only U.S. released in my top 20, but one that is well worthy of inclusion. I'm talking about Rubidium, the debut album from Floridian melodic black and death metal crew Visitant. At 32 plus minutes, this one is barely more than an EP, but man, the 7 tracks sure punch above their weight in terms of composition and musicianship. Guitarist Taylor Tidwell is remarkable in his flexibility and improvisation. No matter how many times I listen to these songs, they just never seem to get old, and I find fresh nuances and intriguing flourishes anew as I return to each track. The guitar riffs are scorching, the drums blister past the listener at crazy speeds, but there's also, to complement, delectable guitar solos and the occasional acoustic passage. Vocalist Chelsea Marrow is in incredible form throughout, whether bellowing the acerbic versing on Fodder or sultering through the chorus of Briars. All of these tracks are excellent the whole way through, with no luster lost on the surprising effervescent closer Moonbathe. Every song is distinct and memorable, an absolute classic, and can't miss for any metal fan.
1.
In my estimation, the best album of 2025 was Myth of Mankind, released this year by Italian folk metalers Excellium through Rock Shots Records. Exciting, varied, aggressive, quirky, this album really runs the gamut of sounds that one would want in the folk metal subgenre. But mostly, it's just fun, with songs like Hex bringing Ren Fair-esque vibe, while The Queen and the title track deliver more intense melodic death metal foundation. The folk instruments, particularly the violin and flute, are strong in the mix, but not overwhelming, and fit well with the level of the other players. Singer Ariana Belisano is simply phenomenal. Though sparingly used, her voice soars, filled with expression and perfectly offsets Sam Bigonzoli's growls and screams, and brings light to the whole album. Every folk metal maniac needs this album, Myth of Mankind by Exilium, and even metal fans who aren't particularly partial to the genre need to check it out. We'll finish out with a song from Myth of Mankind. This is Hex.
Slips to the neck of the night, beating the time until daylight. Before the torches give way to the morning beam, the sun shatters all our dreams.
They told me not to wonder when the mist descended. Hide the spell they cast, the hex and come. They told me not to dance while out there it's pouring rain. They'll bewitch my brain.
That was Hex by Exilium. Then before we go, I know you wanted to highlight a few albums in 2026 that you're very much looking forward to.
Genus Ordinus Dei, The Land East of Eden. Elendi, Zerfall. Creator, Crushers of the World, Archspire, Too Fast to Die, Ricket, 2026. These next ones don't have an official album title, but I am looking forward to new music from the following bands: Vargrav, Death Vomit, Heteromorphic Zoo, Catcher in the Rye, Salmaveth PA, The Necro Vomits, and we never got a new album from Svav Habet, so I guess I'm going to have to just look for that in 2026.
I'm excited for some of those myself, Xander. A few others you didn't mention that I'm super stoked about include Greyhawk, Warriors of Greyhawk, Therian, Con Orchestra, progressive metalers So On with Reliance, Aeon Gods, Reborn to Light, and then a few that haven't been entirely confirmed, but I have a sneaking suspicion we'll see in 2026 include Polish folk metalers Merkfolk, Draconian, and Gry. That does it for our recap of 2025, and look forward to 2026, Xander. Until our next time, listeners, sell your soul for metal and defend it till your dying day.